I want you to do something tonight. Go to the oldest mirror you can find. Don't look in your bathroom mirror, which is almost certainly modern float glass with an aluminum coating sprayed on the back in a giant factory. Instead, find a true antique. Look for something from your grandmother's house, an estate sale, or that dusty corner of an antique shop where the furniture is too heavy to move and the glass has darkened and clouded around the edges. Stand in front of it, look at yourself, and notice that you look different. It isn't a dramatic difference or a funhouse distortion. It is something subtle, something hard to fully articulate. The color of your skin feels warmer, the shadows on your face run deeper, and your eyes look entirely different. There is something about the pupils, something about the way the light falls into them rather than simply bouncing off them. The reflection possesses a distinct quality that modern mirrors completely lack, a depth, as if the glass isn't just showing your surface, but pulling something out from underneath it. It feels as if the mirror is seeing more of you than you are used to being seen. I noticed this years ago while standing in a dimly lit hallway in an old house in upstate New York. I found myself looking into a mirror that must have been a century and a half old. The reflection wasn't worse than a modern mirror, it was just fundamentally different. The difference wasn't due to damage, age, or imperfection, it was character. The mirror was interacting with light in a way that my bathroom mirror never could. I filed that observation away as a minor curiosity until I began researching the history of mirror manufacturing. What I discovered is something I haven't been able to stop thinking about since. They changed how mirrors are made. It didn't happen gradually through the slow, natural evolution of craft techniques. They changed the fundamental chemistry and the physics of how a mirror captures and returns light. This massive shift happened in a very specific window of time, the mid to late 1800s. Interestingly, the historical reasons given for this change don't fully explain why the old method was abandoned so completely and so quickly. Within a single generation, the mirrors that humanity had relied on for centuries were virtually extinct. This raises a simple but critical question. If the new mirrors were simply better, why does standing in front of an old one feel like looking at an entirely different version of yourself? To understand this, we have to look at what mirrors actually were before this great transition. The history of mirror making is one of the most closely guarded trade secrets in human history, and the full story is rarely told. For roughly 400 years, from the early 1500s to the mid-1800s, the world's finest mirrors were made using a technique perfected on the island of Murano in the lagoon of Venice. The Venetians didn't invent mirrors, but they refined them to such a degree that Venetian mirrors became one of the most valuable luxury goods in European civilization. They were more valuable per ounce than gold and more coveted than silk or rare spices. They were so valuable that the Republic of Venice classified mirror making as a strict strategic asset and a source of geopolitical power. Why would a republic built on trade and diplomacy treat looking glass as a matter of national security? The standard economic explanation is that Venetian mirrors were enormously profitable, so protecting the monopoly protected the state's revenue. While that is true, it doesn't go far enough. Venice produced many highly valuable goods, glassware, textiles, ships, yet none of them were protected with the lethal intensity reserved exclusively for mirrors. The mirrors were different. They were special. The deeper you dive into the traditional Venetian technique, the more you understand what made them unique. These old-world mirrors were made using a tin-mercury amalgam. A sheet of tinfoil was laid on a flat surface, and liquid mercury was poured over it. The mercury bonded with the tin to create an amalgam. A sheet of glass was then carefully slid onto this metallic layer, pressing out the excess mercury. The glass was weighted down and allowed to rest for weeks, sometimes months, while the amalgam cured and bonded permanently to the glass. This process was painstakingly slow and required extraordinary skill. The tin-mercury amalgam didn't reflect light the way modern mirrors do. Modern mirrors use a microscopically thin, uniform coating of aluminum or silver deposited through chemical silvering or vacuum deposition. It reflects light with clinical, mathematical precision, bouncing photons back at the exact angle they arrived. The resulting reflection is sharp, bright, and flat. It shows you exactly what a camera would show you: a cold exterior surface. The old tin-mercury amalgam was thicker and molecularly uneven. This structure caused it to interact with light in a much more complex way, absorbing certain wavelengths and softening others. The reflection wasn't a perfect optical bounce. It was a conversation between the light and the metal. The result was a reflection of incredible warmth and depth. It rendered human skin in rich tones that modern mirrors cannot replicate, showing shadows with a gradation and subtlety that modern photographers spent thousands of dollars trying to recreate with lighting and software. The old mirrors didn't show you less, they showed you differently. Then, in 1835, everything changed. A German chemist named Justus von Liebig developed a process for depositing a thin layer of metallic silver onto glass using a quick chemical reaction. This new process was simpler, faster, and significantly cheaper. It didn't require months of curing or the high skills of an artisan. Crucially, it didn't involve mercury. The official narrative championed this change as a massive health victory. Mercury was highly toxic, and mirror makers routinely suffered from devastating mercury poisoning, experiencing tremors, cognitive decline, organ damage, and madness. The silver process eliminated this horror completely. But while the health argument is entirely true, history often uses a genuine humanitarian concern to mask an economic reality. The transition didn't happen because of health, it happened because of industrial capitalism. The traditional tin-mercury process was slow and artisanal. It couldn't be scaled up to meet the demands of a rapidly urbanizing, mass-consuming industrial society. The silver process, however, was a factory process. It could mass-produce mirrors by the thousands, putting one in every home, shop, and public space. Within a few decades, the old mirrors were driven to extinction because they were incompatible with the factory system. We see this pattern repeat across history. A superior, slow, artisanal product refined over centuries is replaced by an inferior, fast, industrial product optimized for profit margins. We see it in our food, our architecture, and our medicine. But with mirrors, this replacement carried a psychological weight that other industries didn't have. A mirror is not just a tool, it is the primary mechanism of human self-perception. The image in the glass becomes your face in your mind, and when you change the mirror, you fundamentally change how you see yourself. What did people look like to themselves before the mirrors changed? The old reflection was gentler and kinder. It rendered the face with a natural warmth and luminosity that human eyes perceive, but which a flat, clinical, high-reflectivity modern surface completely eliminates. The modern mirror shows you a face lit by its own harshness. Every pore, every fine line, and every asymmetry is highlighted with an unforgiving clarity that the human eye would naturally soften when looking at another person. The modern mirror doesn't show you what you look like to the world, it shows you what a machine sees when it looks at you. This gap in perception might be one of the most psychologically damaging, unexamined shifts in human history. The modern epidemic of appearance anxiety, the obsession with physical flaws, and the multi-billion-dollar cosmetics and skincare industries all align cleanly with the elimination of old-world mirrors. Before the shift, the reflection you met every day was soft and forgiving. Afterward, the reflection became clinical. The face in the mirror stopped being a presence to be encountered and became a problem to be solved. The massive industries that profit from our insecurities could not exist without a mirror that highlights our perceived flaws with such ruthless precision. When you change the technology of self-perception, you change the human psychology of self-perception. And when you change psychology, you create massive, highly profitable markets for self-correction. The old mirrors showed you something you could live with, something that looked like you as the people who loved you saw you. The official narrative tells us that modern mirrors are better because they are sharper and truer. But truer to what? They are truer to the optical physics of photon reflection, certainly, but are they truer to the human experience of seeing a face? Are they truer to how a mother looks at her child, or how candlelight falls on skin? The modern mirror is optimized for cold precision. The old mirror was optimized for human warmth. The Venetians protected the secret of their mirrors with lethal force because they understood that a reflection is incredibly powerful. They recognized the deep relationship between reflection and the human soul. When the industrial process replaced them, that traditional experiential knowledge was lost forever. It disappeared like a reflection when the lights go out. We must ask ourselves what we have truly lost by growing up looking at reflections optimized for industrial chemistry rather than human warmth. Is the face in your bathroom mirror truly your face, or is it a harsher version designed to make you feel just flawed enough to need the products sitting on the shelf right beneath it? If you stood before a mirror made the old way, you might finally see a reflection that is human, whole, and completely at peace.